Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Martin.
Hi, how are you, Alejandra?
I'm fine, thank you. It's
Good,
such a
good.
great pleasure to have you here, Martin.
Well, I'm very happy to be here too. I'm
Thank
sorry
you.
I can't jump the Atlantic, that I have to be already in France
This is
rather than in
fine.
your...
Thank you, Martin. Martin, I will introduce you to the people so they know a little bit about you.
Mm-hmm.
So Martin is widely recognized as one of the most experienced and admired artist managers of our generation. He began his career at Yves and Tillet, and then Martin moved to Harold Holt in 1972. And he later negotiated the merger of that company with Lies Askonas to form Askonas Holt. Martin was with Askonas Holt for 40 years, and now he's still an advisor and a consultant for Askonas Holt. Martin is also the first artist agent that has been named an honorary member of the Royal Philharmonic Society. And for us, Martin, it's a great pleasure to have you here during the Portillo International Music Festival and Academy.
Thank you very much, Alejandra.
You're welcome, Martin. As you said before, the topic of this afternoon is the Atlantic leap, no, from Latin America to Europe.
Yep.
And,
well, I'm in Europe, so you have to jump across to see me.
Exactly. And but before we start with the topic, I would love if you could explain to all of us in this part of the world, in the other side of the Atlantic, what it means to be a music agent, a music manager.
My gosh, that's a big question, but I'll try and keep it quick and fairly simple. What it means that I'm not good enough to be a professional musician, first of all. I think most people in our business, our world, had aspirations when we were young to become a serious musician, professional musician. In my case, it was a desire to become a singer. But my teacher told me very bluntly and in retrospect, very wonderfully, that I wasn't going to make it as a professional singer. So he said, if you love music, then why don't you find a job in an orchestra or management or an agency or a festival, something deeply connected with music. I think you'll be much more you're satisfied with your life if you do that, he said. So there you are.
This is great.
Nearly 50 years later.
and what I want you to explain a little bit what you do, because the music business here in Chile, being an agent is still new for us. So would you explain to us what a music agent do or does?
Yeah, certainly, yes. Well, it is much more of an established organization, institution in Europe and also in North America. And in fact, I started working for an agency, as you said in your introduction, Ibs and Stillet, in 1966. And they were an agency. They weren't a management. And I frankly prefer to call myself now an artist manager, because we try, I hope, to manage the career of the artists. We're supposed to do most things except the music. They do the music, you do the music, and we should do the rest. But in the earlier days, when communication was not so easy, the best and quickest way of getting in touch with somebody was by telegram. And we had no telex. If any of you have heard of telex, we had no fax and certainly no electronic communication, which we have today, and which has revolutionized the world of the managements and agencies. Everything was done by letter or by telephone, and sometimes by telegram. I do remember, incidentally, once receiving a telegram from an impresario in Brazil concerning one of our artists, Andrei Tchaikovsky, and he was already touring in South America, but he must have got lost because the impresario in Brazil said, "Please proceed to Sao Paulo, concert yesterday." But an agent was there to book the artist. You concentrated on having a really good relationship with the presenter or the orchestra or the society, the music society. And it was sometimes a little bit like a cattle market. It wasn't, you didn't always have the interest of the artist first. You had the interest and the aims of the music society or the orchestra first. And you hoped that your artist fitted in to their plan for the season.
Is that a little bit different now?
Yes, it's totally different. Yes. As things developed, so you took on artists. It's generational too, because I worked for a lot of wonderfully well-known, famous artists in my early days, but I was basically their agent for when they visited the United Kingdom. But with a lot of the younger artists who are my age or a little bit older, who might have been based in England, they wanted to have somebody with whom they can discuss their aspirations, their hopes, and somebody who perhaps knew the world outside the United Kingdom and who spoke a few foreign languages too.
Right now, I work with an agency here in Chile.
I know.
Yeah, you know that exactly, Van Hulen Word.
Yes.
And something that is really fascinating for me with Angelica and Caroline is that, of course, they booked concerts for me, but also they help me with my own growth. No, like sometimes they advise me on things. Many times also things not related to music. Is this something that you all do?
Oh yes, I think so.
Mm-hmm.
If there's trust between yourself and your artist, the person you represent, then it's going to go beyond the whole the question of performance and booking your artist, isn't it? Mm-hmm. You're going to be talking about how nervous they are, or sometimes you might ask them to do a concert as a conductor, and the repertoire might be a little bit difficult, or the conductor may not know some of the pieces that they've been invited to perform. And you sometimes on their behalf must say to the presenter or the orchestra manager, no, she's not ready to do that, or he's not ready to do that. Or sometimes you have to persuade the artist that, go on, do it. Take a risk. And you should be with them all the time when that is happening. Not necessarily at every rehearsal, but talking to them, sharing their anxieties, sharing their aspirations. Just as much as anything, you need to be a psychiatrist, a psychologist.
Mm-hmm. I would imagine that you might have worked with artists from all around the world, right?
Yep.
So,
mm-hmm.
So I could imagine that maybe some artist that is coming from Japan, let's say, and
mm-hmm.
moves to Europe. Do you also help them to get acquainted with the culture? Because I'm sure there are many things that they do very different from what we do here or in Europe.
Yes, from Asia, I think many Asian artists, even the younger ones and even the older ones, came to study in Europe at the conservatoires, the Hochschules, especially in Germany and Austria, or they went to USA. So they had a degree of knowledge about what happened outside, let's say, China or Japan or Korea, already when they were starting their career. There were very few artists whom I was aware of who developed their career in China, let's say, or in Korea without coming to Europe or USA. So they knew what they were expecting, and we knew what to expect.
Great. We are here in the middle of a festival with young musicians, and it's probably the moment that a musician starts thinking about maybe having a manager, right? What are the things that you look for as a manager in a musician?
Well, right now it's a bit difficult because I like to sit in a room with somebody and talk to them.
Yes.
Zoom, quite the same thing. But before we were all around the world hit with this awful pandemic, I can't give you an answer that is fitting every situation. One size doesn't fit all. But you have to look for total sincerity. And for me, this is not necessarily everybody is going to take this attitude. I'm interested to see how an artist, be it singer, pianist, conductor, addresses the music. I like to think that they're more interested, more passionate about the music and the way they perform it than their career. That's a strange thing that everybody wants. But in a way, career goes parallel with your belief in your performing the music in front of you and your passion for getting it right.
Absolutely. Did you have any situations in which I don't know if this happens, but that you have had an artist that you didn't really like very much the concert, and then you have to talk to the artist about it?
Oh yeah, but you see, as I said earlier, we're not musical experts. Of course, we attend so many concerts and see so many rehearsals. You get a sort of osmosis into your system of the way an artist is performing, and I think you can sense whether they're good or not. But I'm not going to say the rubato in the third movement, first section wasn't right, because I'm not equipped and I'm not knowledgeable enough to say that. So it's more of a feeling, and also I think the most important thing that we could do is to transfer to the artist what other people have said, perhaps tempering down the wonderful praise that the manager of an orchestra might say about a young conductor, and also softening the horrible criticism that sometimes you hear. So, because you're part of the artist, you're not the musical performing part, but you're still part of the team. So I can't remember off my own accord ever saying to an artist that was totally horrible and please leave the room or please leave us.
Yeah, I would probably think that it will come from what other people would have said, no?
Yeah, I think so. Yes, and I don't think that's not being hypocritical or anything. It's just being realistic and sensible.
Martin, have you ever worked with a Latin American artist?
Oh yeah, yes. In my very early days, when I had moved from Ibsen Tillett to Harold Holt, we looked after Claudio Arrau, your compatriot, who was a wonderful, wonderful, great artist and such a gentleman too. But I was pretty young then, so I was in awe of him, but I didn't have a one-to-one relationship with him. I suppose the first time I worked closely with a Latin American artist was the Mexican conductor. I think we can call Mexico Latin America, can't we? Although some people say it's North American. The Mexican conductor, Eduardo Mata.
Yes.
Who had studied in the States, but who was introduced to me by a very famous pianist in the 70s, called early 70s, Greek pianist, Gina Bachawa. And she loved working with this young conductor, Eduardo Mata. And we managed her. And she came to me to say, I want you to look after this young man. I think you would get on very well with him. So this is what happens in our business. If you establish a reasonable reputation with the artists whom you already represent, will recommend some of their proteges or some of the people whom they appreciate. So Eduardo we became very close, and I worked for him as his general manager until his tragic death in the early 90s in an air crash. And I think I benefited more from our relationship than he did probably from me, or at least it was mutual, because I understood that there was a whole different culture in Mexico, and the roots were different. And it may well have looked back to Paris and to Spain and to Germany, but it had been synthesized into something that was very exciting, very exotic, and I loved it. And I had the good chance to visit Mexico quite regularly. And then my company, when I got to Askonas Holt, developed a close relationship with Jose Antonio Abreu in the early 2000s. We started off by representing Gustavo Dudamel, and we eventually ended up by doing the worldwide touring for the Simón Bolívar Orchestra and representing the Sistema outside Venezuela, which was a wonderful honor. And I got to know this amazing man, Jose Antonio, pretty well.
Wonderful, really, really wonderful. I remember also you mentioned me that you work with Alfredo Perl, also, who is a Chilean pianist.
Yes, I did. We did part company because things didn't work out as well for him as he wanted, and he was living in Germany, in Munich, and he wanted to have somebody who was just around the corner rather than in London. But he's a very fine pianist, and he had a good career in Germany. Didn't perhaps go as well as I'm sure he would have wanted or we would have wanted in the UK. And I think he's doing very well in Latin America now, and I hope especially in Chile. So
Martin, is it usual that you might have an agent in the UK, another agent in Germany, another one in the United States? Is that normal
Well, I think I would make a distinction between instrumentalists and singers, and then conductors. My speciality has been principally conductors, although I've looked after a fair share of singers and instrumentalists in my time. But you see, a pianist can give a piano recital in Germany. He can give 60 piano recitals in Germany, Austria, Switzerland, etc. And it's impossible for us to know every music society in that country, or in France, or in Italy. So when you have an instrumentalist, a cellist, pianist, violinist, whatever, or a singer who is expert in song recitals, it's probably best to have a local manager because they need the work. They need performances to practice their art. With conductors, it's a bit different because you really do try to manage their careers, and you cultivate, or I've tried to cultivate relationships with managers of orchestras and opera company bosses who need to hire conductors for their productions. So there aren't so many orchestras around as music societies or choral societies. So I always preferred to work for an artist like that, just controlling it, trying to control everything, other than find local managers.
Yeah. Because of the time that we're living now with the pandemic,
Yeah.
sure many things have changed. No, probably not for the better.
Definitely not for the better. And I feel selfishly, I feel grateful that I've had such a wonderful life in our world of music. I've been able to travel and to see so many great places, great orchestras and concert halls. But I feel really, really upset for a younger artist who is, well, not just the younger ones, the middle-aged ones who've got family, small kids, and suddenly, from 1 month to the next, their livelihood has been cut off. And then this whole doubt sets in. Will it be okay in 3 months' time? Will it be okay in 6 months' time? What can I do? And so many artists have been incredibly resourceful and have. Well, look at you. You produced this festival, which is virtually all online, isn't it? Is it a 100% festival? Yes, it is, 100%. Isn't it? Yeah. I know people in China who've also had festivals that are totally online. So you can make something out of nothing almost, and perform to people all over the world. But I would submit, being somewhat old-fashioned, that there is no substitution for the live performance.
Oh, I totally agree with you.
I don't care if there are only 25 people in the room. There's a connection between the performer, the musician, and that public that is precious. And this is what is denied the younger artists at the moment. And more experienced artists know of it, and they feel the loss of it currently just as keenly. And it's not quite the same if you have only a few people in the audience and lots of television cameras, and when your orchestra, if you're a conductor, is spread out so that it's not as though you were ever used to conducting an orchestra that way.
Yeah, I actually didn't get a chance to do it yet, like with social distance.
You haven't done.
Got cancelled. So
well, you've done the opposite. And I saw your wonderful Mahler too. You couldn't have done social distancing in that in Santa.
Yeah. Martin, I have a question. Let's think about before the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we have these agencies of like Askonas Holt. I'm thinking of Harrison Parrott, and then Opus 3 in the United States. I'm just curious to know, because I would imagine that the great orchestras in Europe and in the United States, they work with the agencies that are the most famous ones. Is it like this, or I'm curious to know how it works?
Well, I think they work with the conductors whom they want to, and it may turn out that one management has a majority of the great artists, and they will learn perhaps that they can trust you. And if you therefore go to them with a younger artist whom they don't know and who has not been recommended by one of the conductors whom they engage regularly, they'll trust you, or they'll trust you as long as the person does well. And they might give the younger performer, be it conductor or pianist, a chance. And that possibly could be ahead of a smaller management. But in recent years, in the last 10 years, there have been smaller boutique managements, boutique agencies that have sprung up. And we suffer from that because one of our very able and good directors decided he'd had enough of a big management and he left. And he took Gustavo Dudamel with him, much to our disappointment at the time. And he just looked after 2 or 3 artists. And if you have an artist who is in demand, then you can go to the orchestras in full confidence that they need you just as much as they need your artists. For a bigger management, which is what I always preferred to be, you have many artists who are at the top of the tree, and in that respect, you manage their travel, their business, their affairs, and it's sort of super secretarial in many respects. But it has to be very sensitive at the same time, and you have to learn when to say no. But when it comes to the middle-ranking artists who are making a name for themselves, going in the right direction, or to the younger artists, then you are important in recommending them to the orchestras or to the opera companies. And if you have a good reputation, then of course you're going to be trusted more, aren't you?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. In one of our conversations previous this one, you talked about visibility, no? And now I'm going to talk a little bit about this Atlantic leap from Latin America to Europe.
Yep.
Here in Latin America, sometimes we think or we feel that we were not seen enough, no, by the world outside, and I love the word of visibility because I think it's so important to have a way to be visible, no?
Yeah, of course it is. But how do you get visible?
Exactly.
First of all, you can only be visible to an audience where you are performing, or until coronavirus hit us. And word can spread, or the artist has to take the leap from South America across the Atlantic to Europe. Mm-hmm. It's interesting that you phrased it across the Atlantic to Europe. No, does any South American artist think of going across the Pacific to Australia or to
yes,
Asia?
Of course, but we chose this topic because you are in Europe, Martin.
Okay. Okay. Well, I think it's difficult for a young aspiring artist in Peru or Chile or Argentina to make themselves visible in Europe or even North America in the States. They have to go there. They have to take the risk. They have to take the jump across the ocean, which is a pretty big jump. And it may be that they don't speak any other language but Spanish, which will be also a disadvantage. So languages, certainly English, I'm sorry, and German are very important. Mm-hmm. And if you can speak French and or Italian, so much the better.
Yeah. So what you're
saying... I don't think there is at the moment a great deal of international visibility for the younger artists. I read an interesting piece written by one of the major music bloggers, Norman Lebrecht. It wasn't on his slipped disc, but it was for a magazine called The Spectator, where he said that it was only today, and he said some very sensible things, that probably the time for international travel, especially for orchestras and the jet set conductors, will become curtailed, and that local performances in your own country will become much more significant, which of course they were 50 plus years ago. Mm. There's been an enormous transatlantic, transcontinental explosion of travel for artists who one day can be in New York, next day they can arrive in Berlin, and they'll do their concert there, and they travel on to Paris and elsewhere. Many people have been incredibly successful doing that, but it may be that the new era for artists is going to be much more in their own countries. Or if they decide to settle in Germany, they'll remain there. They'll remain there and do things more locally within their own smaller sphere. This may not be a bad thing.
Actually, it's very important what you're saying, because I'm thinking, especially in Chile, no, that so many times the local artists feel that they don't have an opportunity in our own countries, no?
Mm-hmm. Why is that?
Honestly, Martin, I think because I think it's a cultural thing that we think that what comes from outside is better. Mm-hmm. And it, of course, it's not necessarily so. No.
Do you think your wine from outside, your wine is inferior to the wine that comes from Italy?
Well, I think they have done better job than the music business. Okay. I'm just, it's interesting because really I did have a conversation a week ago with two other conductors, colleagues, yeah, from Chile. One lives in Brazil and the other one lives here. And this was one of the subjects that we talked about, no? Mm-hmm. That many musicians feel that they don't have opportunities here in Chile. And I wish it were different, no?
Well, yeah, I think that there aren't, I don't know, I'm ashamed to say I don't know how many professional orchestras exist in Chile. How many are there?
Well, we have a lot of them. We have two major orchestras in Santiago: the National Symphony, the Philharmonic, the Chamber Orchestra of Chile, Orquesta USACH. Then we have about 4 or 5 orchestras in the south and 3 in the north.
Okay. But would you say less than 10?
Probably 10 to 12.
Yeah. Well, in Germany, there are probably 400, 500, you see. Yeah. And then you can include Switzerland, France, UK, etc., etc. So the opportunities are going to be much more in Europe. Yeah. And there are, have been up to now anyhow, hordes of orchestras in USA of differing professional quality. But the underlying quality of professional orchestras in America is very impressive. So I think, and of course, in Chile, Argentina, the many promoters, managers, impresarios look to Europe, don't they? Yeah, yeah. And especially they have done in the last 50 years. Records are sold. Records are mainly made by artists who live in Europe or America, mainly, not all. Yeah. And they are promoted that way. Yeah. Ara, in the early days, came to study in Germany, didn't he? And he made his name in Europe before going back to his home country. So But I think he may be an exception, actually, really, and it's a different era then.
Mhm.
I firmly believe that all of you younger artists, younger conductors especially, have to make your name outside your country if you don't have so many opportunities in your own.
Mm.
Because the world's a big place. It's not just Chile,
Of
unless
course.
for various reasons you want to remain all your time in Chile.
Yeah, yeah. I agree. And then, I mean, talking about the previous, when you mentioned about the local artist, what I was just trying to say that maybe it is a good thing for us, no, to that this is happening.
Mhm.
So the local musicians can also have visibility in our own countries, no?
Yeah, yeah.
And Martin, now comes the word visibility again. This is the reason also why we wanted to do the festival, not
Mhm.
this year in this way, because we want visibility. Uh, we want to put this festival in the map of all the great festivals in the world. No.
Good, excellent. I'll
Yeah.
drink to that.
Great.
Sorry, it is nearly 10 o'clock at night here, so I think I can have a glass of wine.
Please do so. Martin,
And do you feel you are being successful in doing that?
well, you mean with the festival?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, having someone like you, it makes a huge difference for us
That's very
because
flattering, but
it it opens new conversations.
Mhm.
In the festival, we have had a neuroscientist, physicians that talked about their works with music. So
Mhm.
we are opening to different worlds too, no? And at the same time, I have invited wonderful musicians that I study with as a
Yep.
violinist in the United States. And all my
Mhm.
friends say yes to the festival, no? So it's really fabulous.
And
In that
how does your government relate to it? Are they enthusiastic and do they support their festivals?
they are not very enthusiastic, Martin.
I'm
Um,
sorry to hear that. As you see, this is why, and I have to say, our Ministry of Culture in the UK is not terribly enthusiastic, but there's sufficient infrastructure for us to get by without relying totally on direct government support. But if you look at Spain, the other major European countries, and not so major as well, there is a belief that culture is an integral part of the fabric of society. And that is not just supporting professional orchestras, but supporting the education, the music conservatories, etc., etc. And perhaps you should be lobbying your government that more money should be spent on culture.
I mean, no doubt about it.
Mm.
Very
But,
named.
and have you ever invited a politician to appear on a panel in Portillo Festival?
Um, Actually, we're having a politician, a Argentinian politician, that actually she was the Minister of Culture in Argentina when I was the conductor there.
Yeah.
Wonderful woman,
Mm-hmm.
wonderful. Um, it's I guess it's a work that we still need to do. It's not easy, honestly, Martin, to even get in touch with the politicians, no.
But if you managed to find an audience of, I believe, 6,000 for your performance in the railway station in Santiago for Mahler 2, does that not make any impact or waves with the political elite or politicians in Chile?
We It's not easy, Martin. That's all I can say.
Well, it may be that this is a generational thing and that you are a trailblazer.
Mm.
Um, I looked after for many decades Simon Rattle, who of course, managed the Berlin, conducted the Berlin Philharmonic for 17 years, 16 years, and came back to conduct quite recently, be music director of the London Symphony Orchestra. And he's always been passionate, first of all, about education, music education. Secondly, about taking performances outside the traditional area and traditional concert hall. And he has seen during his time in Berlin, and also his time in Birmingham, where there was a very enlightened town council, municipal council, that you can't make progress without the support of the state.
Yes.
But you know that, and I know that, but it's difficult to get that across, isn't it? But yeah, you have to hold that belief.
I'm taking it. Thank you.
And are you doing a lot with educational projects?
Yeah, a lot of them. Yeah, it's part of our mission. And Portillo is one of them, actually.
Good.
Martin, the time is getting close to the hour, and I would love if you could share with us your experience working with Claudio Abbado.
Yeah. One of the greatest musicians, greatest artists, very, very humble in front of the music, with an iron will to do it right. And he loved to surround himself with excellence, choosing the greatest artists to work with him, sometimes in the opera world with young artists, with modest roles, and he will put a young artist into a principal role, and a tremendous interpreter, and always interested in the modern. And one of his tremendous achievements in London, with which I worked closely with him, was Mahler, Vienna, and the 20th century. So Gustav Mahler leading to the Berg, Schoenberg, Webern, and leading into contemporary artists. And this was a wonderful success. And then he left London to go to Vienna, where he had not a total success with the Vienna State Opera, because he believed in artistic excellence. And an opera house like Vienna sometimes is a factory. And you have to compromise to put on a different performance every night without fail. And this was alien to him. He wanted to get everything perfectly right. And he did in the end of his life. He had this fantastic orchestra in Lucerne, the Festival Orchestra. And in his last days, and it's 7 years this month that he passed away, in the final 3 years of his life, he had the Mozart Orchestra in Bologna, where he could do his beloved Mozart, Beethoven, Schumann, etc. But a great towering figure for not only for Italian music, Verdi, Rossini, but for Mahler, for Boris Mussorgsky, Boris Godunov, and Beethoven cycles in Vienna and in Berlin, etc. Tremendous artist.
Wonderful. Yeah, I'm a total admirer of him, of his work.
Yeah. And I think you'll be interviewing Marina Mahler too soon, won't you?
Yes.
That's how I met Marina the first time, because she was a friend of Claudia's. And so we got to know each other pretty well, getting on for 40 years ago.
Martin, before we finish our conversation, could you send a message to the students of the festival about like a final message about, I don't know if is the right word to be a successful artist, but things that young musicians. Yes, please.
Don't think first and foremost about being a successful artist. believe in the music, perform the music, get it right, and make the music the focal point, and then other things follow naturally. So I really passionately believe that you can't believe in a career. Of course, you can want it and you can be ambitious, and that's healthy, but you must let the music do the talking for you, or you must perform the music, and that's what matters. That's the overriding important thing.
Well, and it's wonderful that you are reminding us about that. No, I think especially in these times of Facebook and Instagram and all this social interaction, no, that I feel young musicians can get lost in that, no. So I really appreciate that you're saying that music is the most important thing, no?
Well, I'm preaching what Abada used to say, and what another conductor whom I've just recently waved goodbye to because he retired at the age of 90, Bernard Haitink, the conductor. He also just believes in the music. And perhaps it's easy for somebody who has achieved success and fame and recognition to say that, but I don't think they never waver from that point of view from their early days.
Wonderful. Martin, thank you for this inspiring conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk. And I'm sorry I can't see any of your audience or your viewers. And I wish you all the best for the rest of it. You've got 3 days to go, have you?
We have until Sunday.
Yeah.
So please also
give my love to Marina Marlowe when you talk to her.
I will. And of course, you are always welcome to be part of the festival. You can watch.
I'm going to watch that. I'm going to watch over the weekend.
Okay. Thank you,
right.
Martin. A big hug
Take
to
care,
you.
everybody. Adios.
And I hope to meet you soon.
Okay. I too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.